Hello, welcome to Souls in Harmony. I'm joined today by Gemma Cox, an excellent singer-songwriter from Nace. Gemma, you're very welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
Such an honour. Thank you for coming on. So the pitch of the podcast, if you haven't heard already, is essentially we talk to musicians about the things that are special to them about music, or that that are related to their enjoyment or their connection to music.
Excellent.
You yourself are a professional singer-songwriter.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a couple of EPs out.
I have, yeah. So I released my debut single, "Whale on My Shoulder," and then I added an extra song together with My Favorite Sky, and then I have my debut EP, which is Tall Stories, and I'm currently working on another one.
Yeah, you've just been in studio.
Just been in the studio.
And is there any truth to the rumor that you're going to be calling the band Gemma and the Whales?
Oh yeah. So rumor has it. I kind of came up with I didn't come up with the idea actually. I probably give it to Emily. Okay. But Gemma Cox and the Whales was an idea that because there's the band called Noah and the Whales.
That's true, yeah. Noah and the Whale.
And the Whale.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah.
So I was like, what's even better? Whales.
More whales.
More whales.
We need more
a pod
whales.
of whales.
Yeah.
We're all pods of whales. So
This is a podcast.
It's a podcast.
This works.
Hey, that's it. This is the episode. It could be Pod of Whales.
Pod of Whales is perfect.
Amazing.
Episode title right up front. You can stop listening now. Don't stop, but you can. You've recorded a couple of things. You're recording a couple more.
Yeah.
What as possible as it may be to describe it, what has been kind of your source of inspiration, or the place that you come from when writing?
Yeah,
there doesn't have to just be one.
Oh well, this is the thing. It's like an eclectic, like a huge variations of influences and stuff. Where I started in with a classical background when I started learning the piano.
Cool.
So I did all the grades and went on to do the teaching diploma and all of that. And then I got into obviously everyone has their kind of own listening preferences, and I loved pop music of the 2000s, The Script.
Cool.
And Britney Spears, all of those things. Excellent music. And I kind of wanted to connect the two. I came across an artist, Regina Spektor, and just saw myself in her in a way. So I thought that was really cool because she has this classical background as well in piano. So I was like, oh my God, maybe I could try doing something of the similar sort. And so I started writing music, some duds, mind you, and then some not so bad ones, and then kept practicing. And it is just the practicing part of it, of just a craft. It is a craft. So it just it does take time and trial and error, but ended up finding something at the age of 19. Whale on My Shoulder was one that I was actually quite happy with.
Cool.
I think it took me a while to get kind of happy with the songs and stuff. But yeah, that was the first one, and then it kind of just started snowballing then into more material. And so Regina Spektor was definitely a major influence in my life, and got to see her when I was 18.
Deadly.
In the Borgosh.
Because quite a bit of Regina Spektor's music is quite introspective as well. There's definitely a self-revealing kind of quality to her writing. So was it the desire to share in a way that was comfortable, or was it? Yeah,
I think that's the thing about music. Because before doing the podcast, I was thinking about why. I kind of was self-reflective. I was thinking about why do you make music? Why was I drawn to it so much, especially as a teenager?
Yeah.
And that was why Regina Spektor had had a lot of that kind of personal, a more introspective approach where it's it is very personal, but it does take a bit of time to kind of look at that through like all of the like metaphorical stuff.
Yeah, there's layers to the writing.
A lot of layers.
It's not like, you hurt me, I hate you.
I hate
it's
you.
It's more like, you know,
damn you.
Yeah, it's a story with a meaning. Like.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think she really, it's like I've seen her in interviews saying that she really likes kind of all of those layers and just making like the unusual approach to it, which is kind of unique to her. So I think I came across, I went about songwriting in that way, and now I think it's changed. My songwriting definitely has changed since maybe, even if we started at like Well on My Shoulder, like at the age of 19.
Yeah,
that I've definitely gone more into using songwriting as an element of just being able to say things that I probably wouldn't be able to say in my like everyday life, because I find it very wouldn't be the easiest to confront things, and you know, as like everybody, but so I definitely use it now a lot more in a more honest way, but I still do love using, like, I love I've always loved words, and I love crafting something that feels very like descriptive of what you're doing, and who you are at that moment, and that's really important, I think, to me. So.
And you were saying earlier that like early on the grades on piano was kind of a route to get to those sounds that you wanted to get to, like to get to the music you listened to, not necessarily what the grades were playing. But do you think that, you know, with that like desire to kind of say something in a way that you wouldn't otherwise say, like you're kind of, I guess you're dressing up the delivery of the point you want to make by putting it in this musical context. But is the same true of how you come towards writing songs? Like do you overthink the music, or do you kind of let it flow out naturally and then dress it up? Like, how does that affect your process?
Yeah, actually that's a really good point. I think what I would how I approach it's actually, it's different every time. So I am always and will forever be fascinated by melodies. I just love melodies, and like they're very they don't have to be very long. They're very, very small. And I just love even just like a 3-note part, and I think it's just to build on those. So I definitely start like sometimes I'll start with a melody and then build that on the piano, just repeat it and repeat it and repeat it and then build it, and each time it sounds different. And
do you when you're repeating it, like when you're going over and over the melody on the piano, is that like you kind of internalizing it, waiting for something else to come along, like waiting to hear the next thing or whatever?
It's kind of like it's waiting, but it's also feeling like it's like a relationship in a way. You're introduced to this thing, and then you're like, okay, so we're like becoming more familiar, and then is it going to take a spin in something else, and then it goes into a different direction, and it's, oh wow, okay, this is new, and that's really fascinating to me. So that just keeps it interesting, and but then I'll also just repeat as well, just to become just really comfortable and happy with it, and just it feels really natural then as a layer, and then with that comes like the lyrics and the song itself, and the other way then sometimes, voice memos.
Oh yeah. My phone is full of like 2 a.m. waking up like do.
There's this great story of the composer Danny Elfman. He like wrote all the music for Tim Burton's movies and stuff. And what a legend. He's just a mad joke as well. And he said that his daughter was getting married, and he brought a tape recorder with him. And he was like, because he always had a tape recorder, because he was like, there's melodies in my head, and it was like she was at the altar, and he was like, oh, I'm ready, I'm like, I need to do this. And then he just had to let it go. He was like, I can't take a tape recorder out in the middle of my
because that is
sister.
such a like.
Or my sister, no, my daughter. My daughter's like, he's the father-in-law.
Yeah, he's walking her up the aisle like into a dictaphone, like. Ba, ba, ba. That is such a like classic,
isn't it? Just like,
you know, like any like person who like really treats themselves as artsy, you know, like I do keep a notebook on me, like fair enough,
absolutely.
and I have my phone to record stuff, but like, you know, that thing of like I go to Starbucks to write, or I'm like waiting in the line at the post office.
Main character moment.
Exactly. And you're just like, buddy, like, you know, you can't let inspiration slip away, but you can choose how you let it out. Like, you can be less proud of this.
Oh, it's so funny. Oh, bless. Yeah.
And sorry, I lost my train of thought thinking of Danny Elfman like ruining a wedding. That thing of like allowing the music to kind of come out. Do you know? Do you write poetry, or do you read, or is that how lyrics start?
Yeah. So sometimes by reading. Yeah, like I've gotten back into reading because I always loved reading, but I more recently I'm just kind of interested in like the storytelling aspect of it, and I think we're always, as people, just drawn to stories, and I think I just really love, like, I'll take a lot of inspiration from, maybe even, it's kind of funny, but sometimes I'd go into bookshops and I'd actually just take down the titles of things.
Yes.
And I just, like, not even to read the book, but just to be like, okay, that might be just like an idea.
What does it suggest?
What does it suggest?
Yeah.
And what does it suggest to me? And then I'm like, okay, maybe I might build something with this.
Absolutely.
So that's like, that was something I'd do on the regular. And then lyrics, I do have a notebook and stuff, so I'll write
you have
my
like writing prompts for yourself.
This is the thing, I wouldn't call it poetry because I'm just like, it's just all of this like mad stuff.
It's word stew.
It's word stew.
It's the primordial ooze of poetry. I know. I get that.
It's the primer. It's the it's the start. So yeah, I definitely definitely write a good few lyrics. Actually, the notebook's right here.
I'm looking at it. It's beautiful. Yeah, it's got like a galaxy. Is that?
It is. Yeah, that was one of them. I think I have another one now upstairs, and that's the one I use upstairs. But I'll go through like one a year, kind of. So I'll like. But like, they're really nice notebooks.
Oh, I do the same. Yeah.
Good lining, you know.
Oh yeah. I got a notebook without lines because I was like, what I want to say cannot be contained within your ruled margins.
No measures.
There is no keeping me in a box. But yeah, no, I do the same. I probably spend more on those notebooks than
it's an investment.
than I do on strings. Like, but that thing, the whole like poetry question, you were saying like music is a little bit like relationship. I read this poem, and this is like real basic, like 6th year in school, like leaving cert stuff. But there's this poem, and it's like two lovers meet on a frozen lake and they skate around each other, and the whole poem is kind of how a relationship is like that first meeting, like you're quite like standing back, but you're circling each other, you're kind of like keeping an eye on it, and you're like maybe occasionally moving closer, and you have to wait and see if the other one backs off. I kind of just did this with your dog Bailey. I was like, I'm just being really gentle, putting the spoon down on the table, like, don't freak out. But then you're kind of like, as you get used to it, you have this thing of where you're finally, actually, we're kind of dancing together. Something's happening here. It might take ages.
A connection.
Yeah. But then the letting go part, in the poem, the letting go part is that summer comes and the ice thaws and breaks, and that both of these skaters scramble to save themselves, not the other. And that's the real heartbreak, is that actually it was always about me. It was always, this relationship was about me or whatever. So the poem, maybe I'm interpreting that. Maybe there's a little bit too much of myself going in there, and that this is about me. And this song is about me. But that moment of letting go of a song, like, when's it done thing. How do you manage it?
Oh, it's hard. hard.
Yeah.
I actually because I was recording for a week there.
You just finished,
I
in
just
the
finished
studio.
in the studio, so I was recording a couple of songs, and I got you're kind of, even in the production phase of it,
Yeah.
it's like you are letting go, because you've sculpted this thing.
Yeah.
And I like the amount of times I rewrote verse by
yeah.
verse. I literally just wrote it so many times over and over again. Like the whole of January and February of this year, I was just like constantly, because I think the last time, because you learn so much as well from recording like a previous project and stuff. So with the first one, Tall Stories, with the debut EP, I did spend time working on crafting the songs, but I didn't spend loads of time. I was a bit more, okay, we're just gonna do, I'm not really sure what I'm doing, so we're gonna just see.
Absolutely. And, full experimentation.
Yeah,
anything is possible.
Anything's possible.
You're terrified that you're not capable.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And when got to this project, I think I was a bit more like, okay, I really want to get to that next level of like, okay, I just want to get it even that bit better. And
how did you do that?
By just being quite ruthless. Like, if there was something that I there were lyrics and I was like, I know that I can write this better. I can do this better.
Yeah.
And I can tell the story better. And then is it necessary? Is it not? Also with one of the songs, production wise, we've changed it completely.
Okay.
So learning to kind of let go of that like old original version of it. Now it's going to be in this more dreamy, like building cinematic landscape.
Okay.
So it's it's definitely more kind of, I've lost what I was saying. It's more of me accepting that, but also just that the song changes, and that once you're finished, it's not like it's complete and it's finished. It's never really finished.
Yeah,
but it's like,
course.
You get to a point where you're like, okay,
but you're like, this is how it'll be presented to the world.
Yeah, and it's a moment in time, and that's what I think I love about like recording like a whole week long thing, because it's a moment of time, and you're like that. It's captured in that moment,
and it's a record of where you're at then.
Exactly. So if you do like a recording session that's longer, I feel like that kind of you're questioning everything, and I feel like that then means you get a bit more you start overanalyzing
that
it a
deadline
bit.
is good for it, because I want to make a record of me as of this date, so it has to be done.
Absolutely.
And like, also money's a factor. I can't own a studio.
That's all right.
But when you're like you said, like getting ruthless about doing stuff better, is there ever a time when you have to sit down and be like, you know what, I'm kidding myself, this is actually fine, but do you do that? Do you hang on to stuff? How have you gotten? Is it just the deadline that gets you through that?
Yeah, it really is, isn't it? It's like and then even second guessing some of them, like, oh wait, what? Like, I changed that, and why did I change it?
Yeah.
It kind of happened for like a bridge for one of the songs, but then the whole thing was transformed in like a day. It just it was one thing, and it was complete opposite. Like
and accepting that can't be easy. Like when you thought it was going to be, I'm going to, like this song is going to be like a revolutionary anthem. It's going to be a stamping on 1 and 3, and everyone's going to march to this or whatever. But like, then it's like that, like you were saying, like a dreamy sort of a cinematic, atmospheric sort of a thing.
And Jesus, I was like, oh, to be fair, I was crying at the end of it, because it was actually really emotional. It's like, it got way more like.
Did they get closer
emotional
to the meaning?
I think so. I actually think so,
because
he's a good producer. Keen Sinnott, guys.
Keen Sinnott.
Yeah.
Big shout out. Friend of the show, Keen Sinnott. He doesn't know yet.
A pal. And. Yeah, so definitely it's accepting that it's tough, but I definitely believe in it now a lot more. So
how do you not how do you come to the point of acceptance, but do you think that that's a big part of your music as well? Like, does that show through, like, that struggle of kind of...
Yeah, I think with the songwriting, the craft of songwriting, I think that I love it. If I could do it for I will be doing it for the rest of my life. If I could do it more, I would. I love the aspect of it, and it, like, all of the perspectives that you can kind of unfold for people, and hopefully get people to relate to you, or the other way around. Actually, that makes sense.
100%. Yeah, it's a two-way thing.
It's a two-way thing. And so just to have that view of life, I think is really, really cool. And like, I think it's accepting. I was also thinking actually about, like, The Great Gatsby.
Okay.
So F. Scott Fitzgerald, this is like a complete change.
No, it's cool.
The F. Scott Fitzgerald, he wrote Great Gatsby, and then he wrote it 50 more times.
Yes.
So he wrote draft, more drafts.
And his desktop must have been a nightmare. Pre-computers. His literal desktop.
A puff of smoke. He drafted it so much that it was poetic. It was just what was left was all of this, like, it was like the top of this craft. It's just incredible. And I remember reading it when I was like 16, and I just, like, it was before actually doing it for Leaving Cert and stuff. And I think I was just fascinated by how if you craft it that way, if you are quite ruthless and you keep going, it's so hard. But it's really, really it's really worth it in the end. I think that the reward is the song itself. It's the piece of work that you're proud of. And, and I am proud of the songs. I mean, looking back at them now, they are like, you have a different relationship to them now if they're recorded and released. But then you're also excited for what other future songs will come up, and all of that. Well, I'm sure you do, the tune Hallelujah by Leonard Cohen. So he's genuinely written that song like 50-60 times, and there's like versions of that where he plays like 2 verses and they're fine, and they're the verses everyone knows from like the radio edit. And then there's like I read this somewhere, I think it was like someone else talking about the art of songwriting, and they're like, you're never quite finished, you're never quite done with it, but if the song starts growing with you, it's almost parasitic, like if you just keep going. And he was talking about when Leonard Cohen decided, and not long, it wasn't long ago, given that he wrote that song, like he had 20 years of writing it, but it was like he said at one point, he's like, you know what, if I kept writing this song, I'd keep putting new things into it that the song was not about when I wrote it. I'm still writing from the same theme, but the viewpoint that I have now as a completely 70 something or 60 something year old man, as opposed to when I wrote it, is just unrecognizable. Like, you can't write a young man's words again when you're that much older. Similarly, a young man cannot write sort of the wisdom of an old man. Exactly.
But do you, when you're looking back and when songs have changed a bit, do you do that thing that I think loads of songwriters do, which is like, I'm going to play that song again and I'm going to sing the lyrics, but we're not going to play that song the same way. That song has to be different for me to deliver it now, like in a performance. Like suddenly it's like, I can't sing that as a ballad. That's not sad to me anymore. That's not as deep to me anymore. We're going to play it as like, a rodeo stomp, like, or whatever,
Let's change it up a little, guys.
We're tripling the pace.
So with Whale on My Shoulder, actually, funnily enough, I played a gig on Saturday in Whelan's upstairs, and I was opening for a fantastic artist called Smithy, and I played a gig a couple of weeks before, and omitted Whale on My Shoulder. And it was on purpose, because I was just like, oh, okay, I'm maybe just to see because like My Favorite Sky is a nice one to sing and stuff like that. But Weight on My Shoulder, I was like, okay, maybe I'll leave it out just for today. And I've never done that before, really. Like, everyone was like, "Where's Weight on My Shoulder? What? Why'd you not play it?"
Well, that's a lovely thing.
Yeah. So I was like, "Oh, okay, all right. This still needs to be played." So then on Saturday we definitely we'll be keeping it in. I think because it's been a while since I wrote it, that it's definitely has a different meaning, especially like depending on like the day that I'm performing as well. Like, am I in a good mood? Am I in like a really good mood, or am I in I'm doing all right? Then the song itself, like, it's kind of about a time in my life that like I was going through a bit of stuff, and like it was just before COVID, and just like, how do you deal with things that just to take a break and take a breath and like count to 10 basically. That kind of thing. And so the song's about that. So you kind of like to, I think for a live performance, I like to sometimes go back to when I was writing that, and like try to picture that,
get into the same headspace.
Doesn't always happen, but if I can, I think it's cool. I think you get a more authentic performance of it.
That's an interesting balance, like, because that's one thing that I know I have heard spoken about a lot, but without any definite answer, is when you've recorded a song. Not me, but when other people have recorded songs that they've been in a place for, and they've delivered that song and it's become popular. Obviously there is a sort of, like Whale on My Shoulder, there's kind of a pressure to play it again. Like, I'd say 20 years later, Dexy's Midnight Runners were sick of Come On Eileen, because no one else knew the other stuff on those albums. Like, Two Rye is a good album, but it finishes with Come On Eileen. People are skipping to track 11 every time. Like, but you have to kind of play it the same way, which isn't necessarily always authentic for the audience experience in the room. Like, sometimes you step up on stage and there's just this vibe, and you're like, I kind of know what this needs right now, and it doesn't need that song played like that, but you may have rehearsed it one way with the band or whatever. Like, do you ever find that do you ever find coming up to one of your songs, or especially in the middle of one of your songs, you're like, I'm gonna, and not necessarily even a conscious thought, but you ever kind of naturally push the songs a different way a little bit, just so that the audience has that little bit of, like, not even the audience, they may never notice it, but for you, like, do the songs meet you, or do you meet the songs?
Oh, that's so it's definitely happened where there's a song called What If that I did, which was one of the songs we recorded there back in the studio, and that one is, I love the drive of it. So we started it on a slower kind of vibe, and I was like, nah, this needs to be fast. nah, because it's kind of, it's got that like oomph. You're like, we need to, what if, like,
you're there just clicking the metronome up. The drummer's like panicking,
and the drummer was panicking. So that was so definitely it has happened where it's kind of, and then you're in the moment as well. So you do you get caught up in it? Sometimes you can. I think it does happen. But with getting used to performing with a band as well, I love playing with a band, because you feed off each other.
Absolutely,
and I remember when I was like really kind of, because I started off like playing at open mics, and there was a monthly open mic in Nace, and
just me
and the piano. So constantly like doing those kind of gigs, and there's a different like tone to it, and it's just yourself. So although sometimes it can be nice, it's also
you need a vibe.
There is a nice vibe, and it's cool, and it like you feed off each other. I think sometimes it's good doing a solo set, but it depends. I think on I like a mixture. I like the combination of doing a few like solo, few band.
I get you, and there's this incredible, I think, feeling of trust as well. Like I get this feeling, when a gig's coming up and I've got the band that I want, like, I'm happy with everyone there. I'm just like, no matter what we walk into that night, like the audience are going to feed off us, even if we're not feeding off them. Like, this gig is going to be great because I love you guys and I know you're going to be great. Like, there's that thing of like, sometimes the songs are going to be good regardless of if you're in the headspace you were in or if you're in the room with the audience.
That's true.
But because you're playing them with people you like, you're playing them in a safe space with your band, you know.
Absolutely, actually, that's so true. Because I with the bands that I've been playing with, like, I mean, they're like, anyone that I have played with have all been people that I absolutely like, love, and are just absolute legends. So and I'm just honored to know them. So it's really, really great. People that you trust. So it's like you're trusting them with the song as well, or the songs.
100%.
That's such an important.
You're like you're kind of handing over like a very sensitive bit of yourself, and you're like, don't squeeze, just be cool, like just
be cool.
Just be gentle.
That's fun.
We're coming up on the end already. But one question that I wanted to ask is there music, I do this thing of like a mental diet, like kind of what comes out is very much a product of what goes in. So like if I've been listening to an awful lot of a certain type of music or expression or whatever, then very often what I want to write comes from that place. Is there anything you've been listening to lately or something that's always been with you that's like a bit of a guiding?
Oh, absolutely. No. So, I'm one of the biggest Japanese house fans.
Oh,
I'm just obsessed. Oh. I am so hooked. It's this woman, Amber Bain.
Okay.
And she's signed to Dirty Hit Records, who are the 1975.
Oh, right. Okay.
Band record
label.
Their label. People, and I came across the song "I Saw You in a Dream." I just think it's so clever. I just think it's so great. And there's this I think songs, they have these little moments, and it's the moment, and it's just a little second that you're like, oh, that's what I'm going for.
Yeah.
And so I just used to listen to that on repeat. And then she's now released an album called In the End It Always Does. And it's just really, really, really stellar songwriting. So
I'll stick it in the show notes.
Do, absolutely, because it's really great. And so I bought myself a CD, and it's a personally signed CD. So I got a little note, and then you can write what you want her to say to you and stuff.
Oh, really? Okay. You are the best musician I've ever met, Gemma.
Love you.
Yeah. I worship you.
The floor you walk on.
Here is my enduring power of attorney.
This gift is yours. No, I wrote. Yeah, no, I actually wrote. This is so funny. This is embarrassing. But it was best of luck with the music, Gemma.
Oh, okay. Well, that's still lovely.
It's wholesome. It's wholesome. So that's
and
cool.
She wrote it, so like she could have just sent that money back.
That's right.
She meant it.
She meant it.
Yeah. Or she really wanted the money, but more likely she meant it.
Fantastic artist. And that's definitely hugely influenced by her, and influenced by the likes of Regina's Factor. A lot
your
of
piano sound, it changes a bit song to song, but you have a very definite nothing is that simple. Like you actually, there's quite a lot going on musically when you sing as well, which is not easy.
Yeah.
So is that the Regina Spector influence?
It would be like the melodic thing that I love. Regina Spector. I love. I mean, Joni Mitchell.
Oh God,
obsessed.
Yeah,
100%. I love Alanis Morissette.
Cool. They're three artists that sit melodically in an unusual place within the harmony. Like they're not singing on 1 and 5 all the time. Like they're very much in that land between. Like Joni Mitchell's on ninth
just
and
a whole other plane,
a whole octave above. Like she just does, and her guitar sound is always beautiful and like
so cool.
Yeah,
it's so bright. Like it's so. I don't know, airy and
Yeah.
glistening. And another songwriter that I love is a woman called Imogen Heap, who is
Okay.
a producer.
Okay.
And harmonies
Yeah.
are her thing. Oh
Okay.
my word. So because I love also like backing vocals. I came
Yeah.
across that like love for them when I was like recording music.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, no, just all the layers of backing vocals, and Sarah Bareilles, just to throw her
Okay.
in there because I absolutely love her as well. So
Yeah.
there's a whole
Cool.
load. Takes a village.
It does take a village. Yeah. That's
So
awesome.
yeah, let's go.
Cool. Oh well, look, thank you so much for joining us on the
Yeah,
podcast.
not
It's
at
been an
all.
absolute honor and a privilege to
Pleasure.
have you on.
Pleasure.